Okay, so what I think are the three main qualities in a teacher, the first would be patience. And I think this manifests itself in a number of ways. Um, Firstly, patience to get to know your students, in dealing with students on a day-to-day basis, in answering questions, sometimes multiple times in a 5 minute period. But also patience in dealing with yourself, and perhaps if something doesn't go as well as you were expecting or as you wanted, in having the patience to sit back, reapproach a subject from a different perspective, and to find a different way around it. And that leads into my second main quality, which would be adaptability. So finding new ways to appeal to students, whether that be in integrating um, things that interest them, topics that interest them, or in finding new ways to approach a subject. For instance, one of the things my Year 9 class discovered recently and are really taken to was answer buzzers. So I try and integrate that as often as possible into my teaching. My third quality would be curiosity. Obviously, students are always learning, so we as teachers also always have to learn. We have to try and discover new things about the subject we're teaching, about keep up to date with new methodologies and evidence-based research, discover new things about the brain and how we can integrate this into our pedagogical practice. In terms of my best experiences in teaching, what really makes the subject come, or rather the profession come alive to me, is seeing the difference you make in the lives of your students. Um, so, for instance, I have a couple of letters here from my first school, over 8 years old, and which I've kept with me, and which have always motivated me to be the best teacher I can be. So, one here, dear Keith, thank you for being a calm, positive presence in class and at school. I really appreciate the effort you put into teaching us and your quiet sense of humour. And that was from a student who got 44 out of 45 on her IB and went on to study at Yale. So that really meant a lot to me. Another letter here from, thank you letter from a student who got a scholarship to a university in the US based on a reference letter I wrote to him. And that, again, meant a lot to me and is something that I've kept. Aside from that, one particular more recent instance from my current school is a young lady I taught a couple of years ago who suffered quite heavily with dyslexia, and she was doing a French IGCSE, and she scored a 1 out of 9 in her December exams. But what I did was I made the decision to take her out of IGCSE, put her into foundation level GCSE, and that was something the school had never done before. And I coached her through that, gave her extra lessons on a on a weekly basis, and she was able to raise that 1 to a 5 from December to June. So that really, I think, really showed to me the difference that a teacher, a motivated teacher, and teachers willing to take the time can make. I think something fascinating. So what fascinates me as a teacher, first and foremost, is etymology and the links between different languages, how we can see this as a mirror really for human development and interaction. So one of the things that I came across, well, just recently really, while I was doing a lesson on Easter. So if I look at the languages I teach, so French, Easter is Le Pâques, in Russian it's Pascha, and these come from originally the Latin word for food, Pasqua, but ask myself, why is the English word so completely different? And it turns out it's from an Anglo-Saxon goddess mentioned by Bede in the 8th century. So the link for that one, my students always find most interesting is cultural material, in using culturally specific material to kind of give a context to linguistic learning, and I try to integrate that into my classes as often as possible. Fourth question, why teaching? So I came into teaching from accountancy, and it was really that which I did for about a year and a half. I didn't enjoy it, but it was a valuable experience in really teaching me what I wanted from a career, which is the personal aspect, the day-to-day variety, the ability and the capacity to use my passions and my talents. And I started teaching when I was doing postgraduate work at the University of St Andrews. I then went from there to UWC Dilijan, and from there I went to Academia High School in Warsaw, which is where I am now, and where I have been for 7 years. And I think all these experiences have prepared me very well for tutoring, because I've always worked with very small kind of classes and had very quite personal, intimate relations with my students. In terms of other jobs, well, I am a teacher. I think one of the things that most appeals about teaching is the variety. So school is a little community. There is always other things to do and to get involved with. And in coming back to the UK, first of all, to do my PTCE, which I'll be doing in September, I would also like to qualify as a rugby coach. It was my main sport growing up, and it's something I've always wanted to do. For the last 2 years, I've also been doing an online course in horticulture, and that is something that I'd like to develop and maybe get involved in gardening and in a boarding school environment. I think there is definitely a link between gardening and education. In the words of Russell Page, to plant a tree is to give form and shape to our dreams of a better world.